hassle. Hello, is this thing on? Early day care. Pog. Hassle. Knock knock let me in, knock knock let me in. Yo chat has hug.
Hey.
Months love you Habibi love you chat people hey. Good morning Arjan and chat hassle. It's time to shut this TTS down chat. Before we begin the speedrun. Chat you look very cute I love you hassle. Anyway. I love Amelia Watson's massive chungas. Arjan? Azuni? Esjan? Azerbaijan? Ozian? Azu? Say the line. One year Pogu. I just want to say that Elizabeth Warren is one of the good ones. Pog.
What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, afternoon, pre-noon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Hasan Piker, and this is the HasanAbi broadcast coming to you live from sunny California, Los Angeles. Folks, we are live and alive on a wonderful yet very... Yes, my heart rate is racing. My heart is racing. My heart is racing. Don't worry about that. We're live and alive on a wonderful yet very dark and very gloomy California, Los Angeles morning. It is Thursday, March 25th, 2021, 10:25 a.m. and I'm very early. And you might be thinking like, why is this motherfucker so early? What's going on? I thought we had an established contract where you're not supposed to stream until, you know, later in the day. Okay. You're not supposed to stream until later in the day at 11. That's when you're supposed to start. And you're supposed to talk about your personal news and whatnot. You might be wondering what the fuck's going on. Well, I hit the gym early this morning. Time for some personal news. Ended the stream at a relatively reasonable hour at 11 p.m. So conducted a 12-hour stream, you know. Just the huge 11 to 11, 12-hour stream, you know. Ended it. Stayed up all night browsing fucking subreddits, you know, trying to fill my show hole that I've talked about already. I have a big show hole and I hate it. Filled it with some King of the Hill. Started watching King of the Hill again, which is pretty good. Went to sleep, woke up, Went to the gym, baby. Went to the motherfucking gym, did some chest and some shoulders. You know, shit was good, okay? No, I still have not watched the Justice League Snyder Cut. But I'm in a really, really good mood overall. Now, apologies to the offliners. I know you like to have your little offliner time. Well, it didn't fucking work.
Nine months, Pog. Good morning.
News-wise, there's a lot of news density. There's definitely a lot going on in the news world. Joseph Robinette Biden's first ever press conference, his first ever solo press conference, is supposed to have started. So we're just going to dive right into that real quick. Afterwards, I'm going to dive into a bank robbery. So I'm just going to fucking tweet that I'm live, and we're going to start here.
Last week by day 58, 42 days. Now today I'm setting a second goal, and that is we will, by my 100th day in office, have administered 200 million shots in people's arms.
Does he mean 100
That's right,
million
200
vaccinated?
million shots in
So 100 million vaccinated.
I know it's ambitious, twice our original goal, but
there's no fucking way that 200 million people are going to get vaccinated. There's like not that many people that would get vaccinated.
I believe we can do it. And today,
I mean,
we
we're
made
doing
a
like
historic
2.5 a
investment
day. It's
reaching the
crazy.
hardest hit and the most vulnerable communities, the highest risk communities, as a consequence of the virus, by investing an additional $10 billion in being able to reach them. I also set a goal before I took office of getting a majority of schools in K through 8 fully open in the first 100 days. Now, thanks to the enormous amount of work done by our administration, educators, parents, local, state education officials, and leaders, recent Department of Education survey shows that nearly half of the K through 8 schools are open now full-time, 5 days a week for in-person learning. Not yet a majority, but we're really close, and I believe in the 35 days left to go, we'll meet that goal as well. As of yesterday, more than 100 million payments of $1,400 have gone into people's bank accounts. That's real money in people's pockets, bringing relief instantly almost. And millions more will be getting their money very soon. One final note.
Hey, Hasan,
since we passed the American Rescue Plan, we're starting to see new signs of hope in our economy. Since it was passed, a majority of economic forecasters have significantly increased their projections on the economic growth that's going to take place this year.
So juice this.
They're now projecting it will
juice this
exceed
shit, boys. Juice
6%, a 6% growth in GDP. And just this morning, we learned that the number of people filing for weekly unemployment insurance
Biden's looking
fell by nearly
vibrant.
100,000.
Motherfucker's looking young right now, dude. What the fuck's going on?
The numbers
He's like the first president to like actually. I'm starting to believe the legitimate fucking baby fetus shit that conservatives talk about. First president to actually reverse age after getting into office.
Help is here, and hope is on the way.
He looks like he just got a fresh fetus this morning, you know?
Questions. Zeke, Associated Press.
Okay, so I suspect all these questions are going to be border crisis, border crisis, border crisis. Maybe some dumbass will ask about his dog.
I'd like to ask you about some of the other issues facing your presidency. One of the defining challenges you face in the coming months is how to deliver on your promise to Americans on issues like immigration reform, gun control, voting rights, climate change. All of those right now are facing stiff, united opposition from Republicans on Capitol Hill. How far are you willing to go to achieve those promises that you made to the American people?
Well, I'm good. Look,
6 months.
when
all right, it's fine. I pre-watched
when I
it.
took
I pre-watched it.
I decided that.
Okay, to be fair, that's not even like a good prediction. Like, that's not even a solid prediction. I mean, it's just easy as fuck.
I got elected
pre-watched
to
it.
solve
I pre-watched
problems.
it. Guys, I
And
know.
the most urgent
I can predict the
problem facing the
future. I know
American
this is a
people, I
live
stated
event,
from
but
the
I pre-watched
outset,
a live event. It's just
was COVID-19
It was
and
easy.
the
It was easy.
economic
It was easy. I pre-watched it.
dislocation for millions and millions of Americans. And so that's why I put all my focus in the beginning.
I think my heart
A lot
monitor
of
broke.
problems, but all my focus on dealing with those particular problems. And the other problems we're talking about, from immigration to guns and the other things you mentioned, are
Never mind, it's
long-term
working.
problems. They've been around a long time. And what we're going to be able to do, God willing,
It's my
is
birthday.
now
Smiley
begin
face
one at a
with
time to
hearts.
focus on those as well. And whether it's immigration or guns or a number of other problems that face the country. But the fundamental problem
Hey, Hasan, this
is
Amazon,
getting
your employee.
people
You don't
some
believe
peace of
in people,
mind
do you?
so they can go to bed at night and not stare at the ceiling wondering whether they lost their health insurance, whether they're going to lose a family member, whether they're going to be in a position where they're not going to be, they're going to lose their home because they can't pay
My
their
resting heart
mortgage,
rate is high
or
because
the millions of people are
I
going to get
just
thrown
worked
out
out
of
and
their
I
homes
rushed home,
because
and
of
I'm very
the
fucking excited to
inability
do all this shit.
to pay the rent. So
HasanAbi,
we're
just
going to move
Also
on
because
these
I
one at
have
a time,
very low,
try to do as
cardio.
many simultaneous as we can, but that's the reason why I focused as I have. And here's the deal. I think my Republican colleagues are going to have to
I enjoy
determine
your political
whether or
commentary.
not we want to work together, or they'll decide that the way in which they want to proceed is to just decide to divide the country, continue the politics of division. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move forward and take these things as they come.
Follow up, Mr.
Chad,
President.
if you think 120 or 110 is bad, just wait. When I was robbing a bank last night, my heart rate peaked at 180.
Immigration reform, gun control.
Hit 180.
Well, I plan on making progress on all of them, but that's going to be for the American people to decide.
I'm the
I
most.
think, I doubt whether, maybe you did.
Listen, I'm the
maybe
most
others
nervous
did.
motherfucker on the planet. Okay, I
many
keep
of you
shit.
thought there was no possibility
I
of my
keep shit
getting
real fucking
the
tight.
plan I got passed.
But I'm cracked out half the fucking
Without
time
Republican votes.
off of like
Resident
700
sleeper, sleeper.
cans of
Passed.
fucking cold brew and coffee.
People's lives are changing. So let's see what happens. All I know, I've been hired to solve problems, not create division. Okay, how about Yamish?
Thanks so much, Mr. President. You've said over and over again that immigrants shouldn't come to this country right now. This isn't the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception of you that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of immigrants are coming to this country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors. How do you resolve that tension? And how are you choosing which families can stay and which can go, given the fact that even though with Title 42, there are some families that are staying? And is there a timeline for when we won't be seeing these overcrowded facilities run by CPB when it comes to unaccompanied minors?
Well, look, I guess I should be flattered.
Thanks for everything.
People are
Hope
coming
you're having a
because
good
I'm a
day.
nice guy. That's the reason why it's happening. That I'm a decent man, or however it's phrased. That, that's why they're coming, because Biden's a good guy. Truth of the matter is, nothing has changed.
Thanks for everything.
As many people came, 28% increase in children to the border in my administration, 31% in the last year in 2019 before the pandemic in the Trump administration. It happens every single solitary year. There is a significant increase in the number of people coming to the border in the winter months of
5 months, babe.
January,
Let's go.
February, March. It happens every year. In addition to that, there is and by the way, does anybody suggest that there was a 31% increase under Trump because he was a nice guy and he was doing good things at the border? That's not the reason they're coming. The reason they're coming is that it's the time they can travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because of the heat in the desert, number one. Number two, they're coming because of the circumstances in country. In country. The way to deal with this problem, and I started to deal with it back when I was United States Senator, Vice President, putting together a bipartisan plan of over $700 million to do with the root causes of why people are leaving. What did Trump do? He eliminated that funding. He didn't use it. He didn't do it.
The root causes argument is a really good one. It's one that I make all the time. I just refuse to believe. I refuse to believe that they're actually going to put money, while this administration's policy for Venezuela, for example, has been nearly identical to the fucking previous administration, if not worse overall.
To get people, to get the children out of those border patrol.
The root causes are us, dude. The root causes are our involvement and interference.
But he dismantled all of that. And so what we're doing now is attempting to rebuild the system that can accommodate what is happening today. And I'd like to think it's because I'm a nice guy, but it's not. It's because of what's happened every year. Let me say one other thing on this. If you take a look at the number of people who are coming, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back. Thousands, tens of thousands of people who are over 18 years of age and single people, one at a time coming, have been sent back, sent home. We're sending back the vast majority of the families that are coming. We're trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back. But that's what's happening. They're not getting across the border. And those who are coming across the border who are unaccompanied children, we're moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled, as I said. For example, of all the children who are coming across the border, over 70% are either 16 or 17 years old. We're not talking about people ripping babies from mother's arms or little 3-year-olds standing on the border. Less than, I think it's 1.5% fall in the category of the very young. So what we're doing is we're providing for the space, again, to be able to get these kids out of the Border Patrol facilities, which no one should be in any longer than 72 hours. And today, I went to, for example, I used all the resources available to me, went to the Defense Department, and the Secretary of Defense has just made available Fort Bliss, 5,000 beds. Be immediately available, 5,000 beds in the Texas border. So we're building back up the capacity that should have been maintained and built upon, that Trump dismantled. It's going to take time. And the other thing we're doing, I might add, am I giving you too long an answer? Because if you don't want the detail. No, but I mean, I don't know how much detail you want about immigration.
Oh, no. He's doing the fucking, I said too much. I apologize.
One, if you could talk a little bit about which families, why they're being allowed to stay, what the families that are being allowed to stay, why they're being allowed to stay. In addition to that, when it comes to the filibuster, which is what Zeke was asking about, there's immigration is a big issue, of course, when it related to the filibuster, but there's also Republicans who are passing bill after bill trying to restrict voting rights. Chuck Schumer is calling it an existential threat to democracy. Why not back a filibuster rule that at least gets around issues including voting rights or immigration? Jim Clyburn, someone, of course, who you know very well, has backed the idea of a filibuster rule when it comes to civil rights and voting rights.
Well, look, I'm going to deal with all of those problems. The question is the priorities as they come and land on my plate. Let's go to the first question you asked, the first of the second questions you asked, and that is, what about dealing with families? Why are not some not going back? Because Mexico is refusing to take them back. They're saying they won't take them back, not all of them. We're in negotiations with the president of Mexico. I think we're going to see that change. They should all be going back. All be going back. The only people we're not going to let sitting there on the other side of the Rio Grande by themselves with no help are children. And what we're doing there, and it's an important point to understand. I know you understand it. I don't mean to say it that way. An important point to focus on. The vast majority of people under the age of 18 coming to the United States come with a telephone number on a wristband, or come with a telephone number in their pocket in the United States. A mother, a father, a close relative, a grandmama or grandpa. What was happening before is it's taking literally weeks and weeks and maybe even months before anybody pick up the phone and call to see if there really was someone there. Well, we've set up a system now where within 24 hours there's a phone call made as that child crosses the border. And then a verification system being put in place as of today to determine quickly whether or not that is a trafficker being called or that is actually a mom, a dad, and or a
So there's
relative.
still separation happening?
They're
What the fuck?
establishing that right off the bat. If it in fact is mom or dad, dad says, to take the extreme case, I got a birth certificate. Then guess what? We're getting that kid directly to that parent immediately. And so that's going to reduce significantly. There's two ways to reduce.
Bro, the fucking Obama, the Obama administration said that they built the child detention facilities specifically because there was a problem with coyotes like bringing kids in and acting like they were fucking related to them, right? That was the justification for why they existed to begin with. And then the Trump administration took that and cranked it into its current inhumane position. So for Biden not to roll this back, and for Biden not to roll this back and literally reverse the policy in its entirety, especially after criticizing it so much.
I believe.
Oh, that's really silly bitch shit.
Filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. And that is that it used to be required for the filibuster, and I had a card on this. I was going to give you the statistics, but you probably know them. That it used to be that from between 1917 and 1971, the filibuster existed. There were a total of 58 motions to break a filibuster. That whole time.
Hey, yo, let me get
Last year alone,
in the chat.
there were 5 times that many. So it's being abused in a gigantic way. And for example,
Perma them, by the way,
it used to be you
Mod.
had to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk until you collapsed. And guess what? People got tired of talking and tired of collapsing. Filibusters broke down and we were able to break the filibuster, get a quorum and vote. So I strongly support moving in that direction. In addition to
no reason for
having
it.
an open mind about
I'm in a really good mood.
dealing with
I
certain
don't
things
I don't
that
want to fuck around
are
and
just
ruin my
elemental
really
to
good
the
mood.
functioning of our democracy, like the right to vote, like the basic right to vote. We've amended the filibuster in the past. But here's the deal. As you observed, I'm a fairly practical guy. I want to get things done. I want to get them done consistent with what we promised the American people. And in order to do that, in a 50-50 Senate...
No, it's about verify unaccompanied minor contact info, not separating children that come with families.
So that the Vice
No,
President
the verification process is the literal justification that the Obama administration used, though.
And so...
Because they created a...
I have never been particularly
I'll talk about it in a little bit.
calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you...
This is something that big nations use all the time. They say, like, women and children are being used by, like, Hamas, the terror organization, and that's why we have to, like, justify being brutal to them. Saying that, like, illicit illegal activities are happening around children is always used as a justification by oppressors and colonizers to enact brutal measures upon those very same children. So if you have a legitimate problem, if you have a legitimate moral problem with the way that kids are being dealt with in our immigration process, if you think it's cruel and inhumane, then turning around and accepting Joseph Robinette Biden's reason for why he's doing it, hook, line, and sinker, is silly bitch shit.
We would have no problem. You're going to have to, the existing rule, it's going to be hard to get a parliamentary ruling that allows 50 votes to end the filibuster, the existence of a filibuster. It's not my expertise in what the parliamentary rules and how to get there are, but our preoccupation with the filibuster is totally legitimate.
Unless I
but
misunderstood
in the meantime, we got
something.
a lot we can do while we're talking about what we're going to do about the filibuster. Let me get here. Okay.
Unless I misunderstood something that he was saying, and like
Cecilia Vega.
no separation is occurring, but the verification is for children that are unaccompanied at the border.
Circle back to immigration,
for their
you
like
just
family
listed the
members that are
reasons that people
within
are
the U.S.
coming,
borders.
talking about in-country problems.
One thing that the
and-
Biden administration has done. Sorry, this is just a question, so I'm going to pause it. One thing that the Biden administration has done actually that is good is try to rework the confidence within the undocumented immigrants that are currently living within our borders. That is going to be one of the hardest parts. Separation between the Department of Homeland Security and the housing and like child services is one of the main ways that the Biden administration is going to try to reinstill confidence within the migrant population so that there is access to immediate family members and the government can help connect these children and even other economic migrants that are coming into the nation by allowing them to. There's a fucking CC. There's closed captioning. You can read it if you want me to.
Which I would never do.
So this is a big problem. That's part of the reason why the police departments in most areas in like asylum cities do not collaborate with ICE. Because if you constantly collaborate with the federal authorities and they literally fucking arrest you, then you won't want to go and pick up your kid from the detention facility, right? You won't want to pick up your cousin from the detention facility because the Trump administration literally would use the detention facilities as a bait and switch. Like they would lock up these kids, and then if their immediate family members that are undocumented citizens approach the facilities, they would literally track the entire family and cast a dragnet and arrest the rest of the family. Like real incredibly beyond fucked up brutal shit that the Trump administration was using. So, you know, that's something that you got to reinstill confidence. You have to have these people collaborate with the government. Otherwise, it's always going to be illegal. And you have to make the legalization process as easy as possible.
Money to
another thing was
the head
DACA,
of
for
state,
example.
because so many are corrupt. But I was able to say, okay, you need lighting in the streets to change things. I'll put the lighting in. We got a contractor. We got the type of lighting. We paid directly to the contractor, did not go through the government. And violent crime significantly was reduced in that city. Fewer people sought to leave. When this hurricane occurred, the two hurricanes, instead of us going down and helping in a major way so that people would not have a reason to want to leave in the first place because they didn't have housing or water or sustenance, we did nothing. We're going to do a lot in our administration. We're going to be spending that $700+ million a year to change the life and circumstances of why people leave in the first place. That mother did not sit around on the kitchen table and say, you know, I got a great idea. Way I'm going to make sure my son gets taken care of is I'm going to put how old was he or she?
He's 9. I also met a 10-year-old.
A 9-year-old. I'm going to send him on a 1,000-mile journey across the desert and up to the United States because I know Joe Biden's a nice guy and he'll take care of him. What a desperate act to have to take. The circumstances must be horrible. So we can do something about that. That's what the vice president's going to be doing. What I did when President Obama asked me to come and deal. I was in Turkey at the time. He said, you got to come home and take care of this. So we put together a plan and it had an impact. And so the question here is how
Joe Biden said,
we go ahead and do this. What we do. There's no easy answer.
This is a weird situation because it's kind of like when the fucking administration says, we're going to listen to the science, Jack, and then we're going to keep on fracking. Frack, baby. It's like, okay, so you understand the cruelty that you are subjecting like 70% of asylum seekers to when you recognize all of these fucking people sending their children as a last-ditch effort. Like, that's how terrible the conditions are on the ground. So you recognize how brutal it is. So when you don't open the fucking door and create like an easy pathway for immigration and advocate for it and fight for it as hard as you can, especially when you know that it's like literally popular legislation, before Republicans make it into a big deal, and they already have successfully, and without pushback from the Democrats, that immigration issue will turn into a big one because the media is already doing it too. And you're not really doing anything. You're recognizing the cruelty and then not doing anything. You're just saying, like, it's going to be all right. Smile.
It's acceptable to me. Come on. That's why we're going to be moving 1,000 of those kids out quickly. That's why I got Fort Bliss opened up. That's why I've been working from the moment this started to happen to try to find additional access.
I misunderstood it. It was about
children
the
to
phone
be able
call
to
was a
safely,
verification process
not
for
just
family
children,
members
but
in the United
particularly
States.
children, to be able to safely be housed while we follow through on the rest of what's happening. That is totally unacceptable.
Immigration has been a hot button issue for over 50 years. Do you have any sense of history?
Ken.
Afghanistan.
That's my only answer to you, dumbass.
A May 1st deadline for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from that country. As a candidate
50
in
years
foreign
as though,
affairs,
like,
you wrote
immigration hasn't been
that it is past time to
an
end
issue since the
these forever
foundation.
wars.
Like,
can you commit to the American
been an
people
ongoing battle.
that by May 2nd, the U.S. will no longer have forces in Afghanistan?
The answer is that it's going to be hard to meet the May 1 deadline. Of tactical reasons, it's hard to get those troops out. So what we've been doing, what I've been doing, and what Secretary Blinken has been doing, we've been meeting with our allies, those other nations that have NATO allies who have troops in Afghanistan as well. And if we leave, we're going to do so in a safe and orderly way. We're in consultation, I say, with our allies and partners and how to proceed. And Secretary Blinken is meeting in Brussels this week with our NATO allies, particularly those who have forces there. And General Austin is just met with Kayani, and I'm waiting for the briefing on that. He is the leader, quote, in Afghanistan and Kabul. And there's a UN-led process that's beginning shortly on
immigration reform is important, but doing root cause solution is more healthy. Always.
But it is
that
not
is
my
my position
intention
as well.
to stay there for a long time.
100%.
The question is,
The only effective, I don't care about the Afghanistan shit. He's not going to pull out. Shut up. I don't really care about his answer. Immigration is really important, right? Immigration has always been an issue, or not really an issue. It's just been made an issue, right? So as far as immigration goes, yes, addressing the root causes for why there are so many economic migrants, why there are so many asylum seekers, is absolutely the only long-term solution. I've talked about this a million times over. Either you increase the brutality that you subject migrants to make sure that, like, no, the conditions that match your existence within U.S. borders, and especially during a border crossing, is worse than the death squads or rape or whatever the fuck you're escaping back home. Either you do that, or you deal with the root causes. But the root causes in Latin American countries is us and our involvement throughout the history of South American development. We are the root cause. So if what Biden's administration has said about Venezuela and how it seeks to deal with Venezuela is any indication of how we are going to keep operating in South American countries, we are not going to be dealing with the root causes at all. If you keep trying to facilitate coups, enact tariffs, prop up puppet leadership, even allow military takeovers or ultra-reactionary Christian fascist takeovers like what happened in fucking Bolivia, we are not going to be dealing with the root causes. We are going to further destabilize these countries. The real way to deal with this is through some form of fair and actual trade and economic help that is not a CIA operation to curb like socialist development in any of these nations that we speak of. Humanitarian aid starts with American foreign policy drastically de-escalating in the way that it normally has operated in South American countries, and humanitarian aid actually becoming exactly what humanitarian aid is, rather than the CIA sneaking in fucking guns under bread boxes to whatever fucking paramilitary that they've declared is better than like some fucking social democrat. Do you see what I'm saying?
Remain in Mexico, sitting on the edge of the Rio Grande in a muddy circumstance with not enough to eat. I make no apologies for that. I make no apologies for ending programs that did not exist before
No, I don't think
Trump
Maduro is a legit socialist.
President.
No. I'm not talking about fucking Maduro either.
Negative impact on the law, international law, as well as on human dignity. And so I make no apologies for that.
To ask you about foreign policy, Mr. President. Overnight, we learned that North Korea tested 2 ballistic missiles. What, if any, actions will you take, and what is your red line on North Korea?
Wasn't there newly declassified information that like permanently solidified that the CIA, headed by George H.W. Bush at the time, literally had prior knowledge of the Argentinian military coup and informed the president at the time that, and like literally recently came out that they basically knew that the coup was going to happen?
We will
like it just I just heard about it this morning.
For some form of diplomacy, but it has to be conditioned upon the end result of denuclearization. So that's what we're doing right now, consulting with our allies.
Just very quick follow-up.
You only got another hour now, okay?
Diplomacy, can you define what you mean?
Shit, dude.
Former President Obama warned the incoming President Trump
the radical
that
left
North
is
Korea
out, dude.
was the top foreign policy issue that he was washing. Is that how you assess the crisis in North Korea?
Yes.
North Korean crisis is not a real crisis. I don't give a fuck how many bombs they fucking blow up, okay?
Nancy, CBS?
North Korea has never been a real crisis, never going to be a real crisis. I was even one of the people that like really fucking went overboard and over the top with in the early stages of the Trump administration. I admit that is a mistake. Not real.
Democrats fear
it's not real.
impacting
It's
minority
fake.
voters,
It's fake.
young voters, the very people who helped to get you elected.
It's literally a barrier state for China, okay? The North Korean crisis is not a real fucking crisis. It's a Chinese crisis if you want to deal with it as a crisis, and it's not even a real fucking crisis to begin with.
Possibly lose control of the House and the Senate in 2022.
What I'm worried about is how un-American this whole
What do you mean is
initiative
fake?
is. It's sick. It's sick. Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water.
What I mean when I say it's fake is that it's not, it's like a real, it's not a real or significant threat. It's just yet another, way that America could justify its military involvement in the region. You know, saber rattle with a country that doesn't have the fucking military power of like a fucking police department in Texas, okay? Like, yeah, they have missiles, and they could technically own South Korea if they wanted to, but they're never going to do that because the country would turn into fucking glass. And also, they would compromise their puppet barrier state for China, their position as a barrier state for China. They're already under incredible amounts of crippling fucking sanctions. It's totally manufactured bullshit, okay? It's manufactured bullshit. They're not a legitimate threat. I mean, maybe to Japan as well. But it's not a real or significant threat in any meaningful capacity.
Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic, what they're trying to do. And it cannot be sustained. And do everything in my power, along with my friends in the House and the Senate, to keep that from becoming the law.
Is there anything else you can do about it besides passing legislation?
Boys, I got to run an ad real quick here, okay?
Lay out a strategy.
Sorry.
in front of the whole world and you now.
60-second ad break here.
Then, on a related note, have you decided whether you
Think
are
about
going to
it
run
as though
for
I've,
re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a
Think about it
re-election
like I've
campaign
muted.
yet, as your predecessor had by this time.
My
And I'm talking. I'm getting Donowald or something. Or just subscribe, and you will no longer need to see ads.
No, the answer is yes. My
Or use
plan
an
is
ad
to run for
blocker.
re-election. That's
Whatever
my
you want to do.
expectation.
But here's
And
the
then
1-minute ad now.
On one other note, on bipartisanship.
You can
your old
subscribe for
friend,
free with a
Mitch
Twitch Prime by
McConnell,
connecting your Amazon
says
Prime.
you have only spoken to each other once since you took office, and that you have moved far left since taking office. Do you see it the same way he does? Have you rejected bipartisanship?
No, I haven't at all. I've been meeting. When's the last time a president invited the opposite party
Thank
down?
you, Adondo, for the
at
10
least
tier
a half
one
a dozen
gifty
times
boys.
to talk about issues, everything from how we work. We're working with a group of 20 members of the Senate right now and House on how we reestablish our ability to make computer chips and how we get ahead of the game, how we can work together. We're working together on a bunch of things. But look, I know Mitch well. Mitch knows me well. I would expect Mitch to say exactly what he said. But this is a matter of making sure that I would like elected Republican support. But what I know I have now is I have electoral support from Republican voters. Republican voters agree with what I'm doing. And so unless Mitch says the last thing I did, this last piece of legislation is so far left, well, then he ought to take a look at his party. Over 50% of them must be over that edge as well, because they support what I did.
Good.
Okay.
Be more. He should be.
Where am I here?
More
Let me
unapologetic
see.
about this part.
Caitlin?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have a question for you, but first, I'd like to follow up on a question from Yamiche, and that's on the filibuster.
That counts as a question, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it quick. It's a quick question. Regarding the filibuster, at John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama said he believed the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it if it's a relic of the Jim Crow era?
He's about to be like, come on, Jack. That's why I don't want to abolish it. I'm Jim Crow Joe. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Don't
Successful
get
electoral
triggered.
politics is the art of the possible.
Don't get triggered, Libs. That's old Joe. That's the old him.
Let's figure out how we can get this done and move in the direction of significantly changing the abuse of even the filibuster rule first. It's been abused from the time it came into being by an extreme way in the last 20 years. Let's deal with the abuse first.
It sounds like you're moving closer to eliminating the filibuster. Is that correct?
I answered your question.
You also just made some news by saying that you are going to run for re-election.
I said that is my expectation.
So is that a yes, that you are running for re-election?
Look, I don't know where you guys come from, man. I've never been able to travel. I'm a great respecter of fate. I've never been able to plan 3.5 years ahead for certain.
And if you do run, will Vice President Harris be on your ticket?
I would fully expect that to be the case. She's doing a great job. She's a great partner. She's a great partner.
And do you believe you'll be running against former President Trump?
Oh, come on. I don't even think about it. I have no idea. I have no idea whether there'll be a Republican Party. Do you? I know you don't have to answer my question, but I mean, do you? I mean, look, this is the way I view things. I become a great respecter of fate in my life.
Tits.
I set
Listen,
a goal
Sugar Tits, put
that's
some
in
more
front of me to
lipstick
get
on. I
things
can't
done
see it over the
for
mask,
people
but I
I
know
care
you
most
got some
about.
smackaroons under
Which are
that mask.
hard-working, decent American people who getting really having it stuck to them.
I'll give you a big
I want to change the
pucker, all right?
paradigm. I want to change the paradigm. We start to reward work, not just wealth. I want to change the paradigm. If you notice, didn't you find it kind of interesting that my Republican friends were worried about that the cost and the taxes that had to be had, if there isn't any tax to be had, as they talk about.
Boys, every question after this is fun time,
the
okay?
act that we just passed.
Every question after this is going to get bonus answers. We are in the bonus round, okay?
When they passed close to $2 trillion Trump tax cut, 83% going to the top
He's just
1%.
rambling on now.
Do you hear them talk about that at all? I love the fact that they found this whole idea of
let's go. Finally, unshackled,
the
okay?
federal budget. It's kind of amazing. When the federal budget is saving people's lives,
Let's go.
they don't think it's such a good idea. When the federal budget is feathering the nest of the wealthiest Americans, 90 of the Fortune 500 companies making billions of dollars, not paying a cent in taxes, reducing taxes to the point that people who are making, if you're a husband and wife, a school teacher, and a cop, you're paying at a higher rate than the average person making $1 billion a year is. Something's wrong. Their newfound concern. I'm concerned. Look, I meant what I said when I ran, and a lot of you still think I'm wrong.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If he fucking rambles on, like...
To restore the soul,
going
dignity,
forward
honor,
from this point on, if he rambles, it's just fun
transparency
for us. It doesn't fucking matter.
to
It
the
doesn't matter.
American
It's good.
political
It's good.
system.
Let him ramble. It'll be fun.
2,
It'll be cool content
to
for us.
rebuild the backbone of this country, the middle class, hardworking people and people struggling to get in the middle class. They built America, and unions built them. The third reason I said I was running was to unite the country. And generically speaking, all of you said, no, you can't do that. Well, I've not been able to unite the Congress, but I've been uniting the country based on the polling data. We have to come together. We have to. So from my perspective, it's, to me, it's about just, getting out there, putting one foot in front of the other and just trying to make things better for people. Just hard-working people. People get up every morning and just want to figure out how to put food on the table for their kids, be able to have a little bit of breathing room, being able to make sure that they go to bed not staring at the ceiling like my dad did, wondering whether, since he didn't have health insurance, what happens if mom gets sick or he got sick. These are basic things. Basic things. And I'm of the view that the vast majority of people, including registered Republicans by and large, share that same view, that same sense of what is, what's appropriate. Justin Sink, Bloomberg.
Thanks, Mr. President. I wanted to ask about your
all
relationship
California
with China
adults
now that
are
you've been
eligible
on
for
office
vaccine
for a
starting
couple
April
months.
15th. Let's go.
There's
Let's go.
obviously
Let's
the
go. Let's
meeting
go,
in
boys.
Alaska that,
Good news overall. Good news overall.
There's the continued human rights abuses. So today, I'm wondering, are you more likely than you were when you came into office?
I am going to put it directly in my butt,
China?
okay?
Are you considering banning imports of forced labor products? And would you consider cutting off U.S. investment or Chinese access to
what the fuck?
International payment system?
Bro, forced labor product is such a fucking hilarious meme. It's literally 99%. All labor under capitalism is coerced to begin with. All labor under capitalism is exploitative to begin with. But like, I know that he mentions it by talking about like slaves, but we literally would not have an iPhone.
I've known Xi Jinping for a long time.
Like it is a ridiculous take, and it's only utilized in a political capacity to just say like, oh yeah, we're gonna do something about China. We gotta do something about China. It's not gonna happen. Okay, that's one. Like. Yeah, sugarcane, cotton, coffee, tobacco, cattle, rice, fish, palm oil, fucking every conflict mineral, literally every conflict mineral, like all of it. No iPhones, no nothing.
Hours upon hours with him alone with the
interpreter.
5 months.
This notion that we would chocolate, this notion that we would have a fucking no coerced, no forced labor is so silly. When the difference between like, when the difference in coercion between like forcible labor, as far as like slave labor in work camps or whatever, versus like American prison conditions with the exact same situation, where there is like the same exact amount of coercion for within our own like criminal justice system, or literally the coercion of having to die if you don't fucking feed your family, so you have to work in a conflict mineral mine.
And we made several things clear to one another.
Semantics.
I made it clear to him again, what I've told him in person on several occasions, that we're not looking for confrontation, although we know there will be steep competition. Two, that We'll have strong competition, but we'll insist that China play by the international rules. Fair competition, fair practices, fair trade. Thirdly, in order to compete effectively, I indicated.
If you have autism, you'll get double autism. Yes, this is how it works.
We're going to deal with China
with the vaccine
effectively. And we're going to need three things to do that.
Yeah.
Telling our people. First, we're going to invest in American workers and American science. I said that all through the campaign. I say it again, and I'm setting up my administration to be able to do that, which is that, you know, back in the 60s, we used to invest a little over 2% of our entire GDP in pure research and investment in science. Today, it's 0.7%. I'm going to change that. We're going to change that. The future lies in who can, in fact, own.
I'm excited about it.
Relates to technology, quantum computing, a whole range of things, including in the medical fields. And so, what I'm going to do is make sure we invest closer to 2%. One of the reasons why I've set up the PAB, the President's Board with scientists and the like, again, is we're going to invest in medical research, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, the things, industries of the future, artificial intelligence.
So if we're gay, do we get extra gay too, or does it undo the gay? No, you get extra gay.
We're going to make real investments. China is out investing us by a long shot because their plan is to own that future.
Get excited. You're going to be even more gay.
The second thing we're going to do is we're going to reestablish our alliances, and I've been very clear with them. It's not anti-Chinese, and we've talked about it. I want to make sure that, for example, later today, after this, as a matter of fact, shortly after this, which is fine, we've been going close to an hour. I'm happy to go longer, but one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be speaking with 27 heads of state in Europe, and very shortly, I think within the next hour or so. I don't know the exact time. And earlier this month, and apparently it got the Chinese attention. That's not why I did it. I met with our allies and how we're going to hold China accountable in the region. Australia, India, Japan, and the United States, the so-called Quad. Because we have to have democracies working together. Before too long, I'm going to invite an alliance of democracies to come here to discuss the future. And so we're going to make it clear that in order to deal with these things, we are going to
I briefly covered the LA Echo Park protests already, but I will do it again later if I dive into GTA right after this, okay?
Whether it relates to the South China Sea or the North China Sea or the agreement made on Taiwan or a whole range of other things. And the third thing, and the thing that I admire about dealing with Xi is he understands. He makes no pretense about not understanding what I'm saying any more than I do him. I pointed out to him, no leader can be sustained in his position or her position unless they represent the values of the country.
It's kind of weird that not a single person, Fletch Dog, you're right. It's kind of weird that not a single person is fucking asked about firing people over marijuana usage.
Of freedom. America values human rights. We don't always live up to our expectations, but there's a value system. We are founded on that principle.
But it's also kind of in the same vein of like, well, you have this take against like fucking China, which is understandable. Do you have a similar criticism over Israel and its mistreatment of Palestinians and human rights abuses, especially at a time when Israel is the first country to vaccinate over 50% of its population, yet has done very little to vaccinate Palestinians, which it has sovereignty over? Do you have a similar approach to dealing with Saudi Arabia, which you said you're going to continue selling arms to because it's a matter of like allowing Saudi Arabia to have its own sovereignty in the region when you know for a fact that they are still engaging in war crimes? You refuse to punish Mohammed bin Salman for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
I see stiff competition.
There's a lot of stuff that
China
deserves criticism from the Biden administration. Not as a deflection, by the way, but like legitimately to try to deal with China, but also try to deal with other, not just adversaries, but like, oh, thank you, XX Colin, for the double 10.
because the United States is going to continue to grow and expand.
Sorry, just to follow up on the meeting of democracies, is that where you expect in a multilateral way to make these decisions about sanctions or
No, that's not where we make the decision. That's where I
No,
make
because
sure
they're
we're
not
all on the same
superpowers like
page.
Russia and China. You think Saudi
the same
Arabia
page.
doing damage
Look,
regardless, or Israel's not a
predict to
superpower?
you,
What are you, fucking
Your
stupid?
children or grandchildren,
Like, Israel is just as much a superpower as Russia, brother. What the fuck are you talking about?
issue of who succeeded, autocracy
Like,
or
if
democracy?
you consider Russia to be a superpower,
'Cause
you have to
that
consider
is
Saudi
what is
Arabia
at
and Israel to
stake.
be superpowers too. You get
Not
that,
just
right?
with
Like, I
China.
mean, China is different.
Look around the world.
China is in a category of its own, but like
Revolution. of
Saudi
enormous
Arabia and Israel are superpowers in their own
Overall
right if you consider Russia to be a
How
superpower.
will people adjust?
Unless you literally think this is still Cold War era.
Significant changes in science and technology, the environment. How will they do that? And our democracy is equipped because all the people get to speak, to compete. It is clear, absolutely clear, and most of the scholars I dealt with at Penn agree with me around the country, that this is a battle
Are you really
between
saying Russia is not a superpower?
the utility of
Omega Law? I'm
democracies
saying
in the
Russia is
21st
as much as a
century
superpower
and
as Israel and
autocracies.
Saudi Arabia.
If you notice, you don't have Russia talking about communism anymore. It's about an autocracy. Demand decisions made by a leader of a country. That's what's at stake here. We got to prove democracy works.
Mr. President, sorry, I know you haven't had a chance to address the tragedies in Georgia and Colorado. You had said to stay tuned for actions that you might take on gun control. Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill that you had promised on day one to Capitol Hill.
How is Saudi Arabia a
or
superpower?
executive actions.
I don't
like going
know.
after
Look up their
ghost
fucking
guns
military
or
size and the
giving
amount of
money to
influence
cities
they
and states
command
to
over
battle gun
both the
control.
United States
All the
foreign
above.
policy,
It's a matter
but
of
also within the region as
As
a
you've
consequence
all
of their
observed.
robust natural resources, and you will understand the answer to that question.
Successful presidents, better than me, have been
Going by
successful in large
GDP,
part
going
because
by
they know how to
GDP,
time what they're doing.
Like Texas is more of a
Order it.
superpower than fucking Russia.
Decide in priorities what needs to be done. The next major initiative is, and I'll be announcing it Friday in Pittsburgh in detail, is to rebuild the infrastructure, both physical and technological infrastructure of this country, so that we can compete and create significant numbers of really good paying jobs. Really good paying jobs.
Like, if you're talking about nukes, then
And some of you have been
Pakistan
around long
and
enough to
Israel,
know
again,
that used to
superpowers.
be
If you're
a
talking about
great
GDP, then
Republican goal initiative.
Russian GDP is nowhere near like superpower
think the
status, I guess.
majority of the American
India
people
too, of course. I'm not even talking about India though.
don't
India
like the
could
fact that
become
we
like a
are now
legitimate
ranked, like, 85th in the
hegemonic
world in
superpower.
infrastructure. I mean, look, the future rests on whether or not
It's
we
ridiculous.
have the best
Superpower,
airports that can accommodate
especially when they're
travel.
regional powers.
ports
Okay,
that
they
get
are.
in and out
They're regional
quickly,
powers.
So businesses decide. Some of you, if you're ever local reporters,
What is happening
you find
as
your
far as like
governor or mayor
America's
trying to
superpower
attract business to your
designation
community, what's the first
is
thing the
just
business
one
asks?
that you use tactically, like
close
the
as
same
access
as
to
saying something is a
interstate highway.
terrorist or someone is a terrorist.
How far am I from?
It is a purely political
freight rail?
designation used to
Is the
justify
water-
whatever kind of foreign
Is the
policy
water
action you're
available?
taking
Is
against the
enough water
region.
available for me to conduct my business? All the things that relate to infrastructure. We have somewhere, I asked the staff to write it down for me, and they did, not for this, but for a longer discussion. We have somewhere in terms of infrastructure, we rank 13th globally in infrastructure. China
Regional,
is
yeah, they are. I'm saying that they're regional powers. I know. America's the only global superpower, and
Bridges,
the only
more than
one that
1/3
can
of our
come near
bridges,
it is China. That is my
231,000
take.
of them need repairs. Some are physical safety risks or preservation work.
And India could become one
1
potentially.
in 5 miles of our highways and major roads are in poor condition. That's 186,000 miles of highway. Aviation, 20% of all flights weren't on time, resulting in 1.5 million hours lost in production. 6 to 10 million homes in America still have lead pipes servicing their water lines. We have over 100,000 wellheads that are not capped, leaking methane. What are we doing? And by the way, we can put as many pipe fitters and miners and us to work capping those wells at the same price that they would charge to dig those wells. So I just find it frustrating. Frustrating. Talk about, last point I'll make in the infrastructure, and I apologize for spending more time on it, but is that if you think about it,
China's One Belt, One Road initiative is a move towards becoming a global superpower.
Increase American productivity.
But that does not mean that China is a superpower at this stage.
Really
I mean,
they're
close to becoming one.
But we can't build
I would even go so far as to say they are.
Used to be.
But
we have to build. The environment's already, global warming's already done significant damage. The roads that used to be above the water level.
They are.
Didn't have to worry about where the drainage ditch was. Now you got to rebuild them 3 feet higher.
They just don't have command over like Latin America
get worse.
or South America. Then that's.
There's so much.
I would consider them a superpower, but they just don't have. They don't have a lot of. They don't have enough presence in South America. Once they have presence in South America, then they are fully textbook definition a superpower.
How many schools where the kids can't drink the water out of the fountain? How many schools are still in a position where there's asbestos? How many schools in America we're sending our kids to don't have adequate ventilation? How many homes, buildings, office complexes are wasting billions of barrels of oil over time because they can't hold in the heat or the air conditioning because it's leaks through the windows that are so porous and the connections?
Only there was like an infrastructure program that created like a government jobs program
much we can do
that doubled as an infrastructure bill that focused on renewable energy initiatives.
And creates
if only
good jobs.
Backed by trillions of dollars in government funds taken from corporations.
Janet from Univision.
And, wealthy people. If only.
We've been reporting at the border, and just like Cecilia, we ran into a pair of siblings who came in on Monday, were detained by CBP, had the phone number for their mother who lives in the U.S. We have contacted the mother. That's the only way they know her kids are here, because CBP today, Thursday, has not contacted that mother. So when can we expect your promise of things getting better with contacting and expediting?
Well, they're already getting better, but they're going to get real. They're going to get a whole hell of a lot better real quick, or you're going to hear some people leaving. Okay? We can get this done. We're going to get it done. I had a long meeting with the entire team and several cabinet-level officers the other night. We're going to be moving within the next week over 100,000. I mean, 1,000 people out of the Border Patrol into safe, secure beds and facilities. We're going to significantly ramp up. We're already out there contacting everyone from getting some of the employees at HHS. There's a lot of them doing other things and move them into making those calls. We're in the process of rearranging and providing for the personnel.
Do you consider Iran and Turkey as superpowers or regional powers? No, they're regional powers. Of course, they're not superpowers.
Down there, you're making the calls yourself. It's real. The next thing that has to happen, though, as you well know, has to happen. There have to be some certitude that this is actually mom, dad, or whomever. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to do that, a little bit like determining whether or not you got the right code for your credit card.
Stop asking every state.
What was your dog's name, kind of thing. I'm being a bit facetious, but not really. And also seeking harder data from DNA to birth certificates, which takes longer. So I want to do this as quickly as humanly possible and as safely as possible.
Well, no, treating the root causes in Latin America doesn't change things overnight. How do you realistically and physically keep these families from coming to the U.S. when things will not get better in their countries right away?
Well, I can't guarantee that. But
Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! I thought he walked away because he thought it was over. Oh God! Oh God! Oh God!
You know as well as I do. You cover it. You have serious. It's not like somebody sitting on a hand-hewn table in Guatemala. I mean, in somewhere in Mexico or in Guadalupe, saying, "I got a great idea. Let's sell everything we have. Give it to a coyote. Have them take our kids across the border into a desert where they don't speak the language. Won't that be fun? Let's go." That's not how it happens. People don't want to leave. When my great-grandfather got in a coffin ship in the Irish Sea, the expectation was he going to live long enough on that ship to get to the United States of America. But they left because of what the Brits have been doing.
Guys, he meant Guadalupe Island, okay?
They didn't want to leave.
Which is
but they had no choice.
A Baja California, Mexico island, okay? That's what he was. That's what he meant when he said Guadalupe.
We can make everything better. We can make it better. We can change the lives of so many
people. He totally didn't think that
you,
Guatemala was a fake country when he first mentioned it correctly.
It's much more heart-wrenching, and it is, to deal with a 5-, and 6-, and 7-year-old. But you went down there and you saw the vast majority of these children, 70% are 16 years old, 17 years old, and mostly males. Doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent. But the idea that we have tens of thousands of kids in these god-awful facilities that are really little babies crying all night, there's some, that's true. That's why we got to act. And yesterday, I asked my team, both the director of the two agencies as well as others, I asked them what would they in fact, and I asked their opinion because they're the experts, but I said, focus on the most vulnerable immediately. But there's no reason why in the next month as people cross the border, that phone call can't be made in the first 48 hours and begin.
If I may ask one last question, have you had any talks with Senate Republicans who are threatening this administration with not considering the immigration legislation that was passed in the House until the situation at the border has been resolved?
No, because I know they have to posture for a while. They sort of got to get out of their system. This is a, but I'm ready to work with any Republican.
I find it really stupid when SJW is like, you want to have open borders, not think about the consequences of having such.
Make the situation better.
Can you imagine if hordes of migrants start flooding this country?
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I really hope one day that hordes of migrants can flood this country and eradicate you from the gene pool by just outbreeding you, because I think that will make America better. There, you heard me, motherfucker. That's my take on the matter.
Crisis at the border, the immigration crisis. The president suggesting some of what we're seeing in terms of a surge is seasonal, that it has happened before. Also talking about rebuilding the capacity to house unaccompanied migrant children. Who he notes he would not turn back and not send them back across the desert. He answered questions about whether that was sending a misinterpreted signal.
Part of the reason why I wanted to start early today, was because I wanted to watch this. I wanted to hear what he had to say. And overall, my thoughts are that Joseph Robinette Biden, one, mentioned a bunch of good stuff, like as far as dealing with the root cause of immigration, like the root causes of why so many economic migrants and refugees come into the United States. Except, do I believe that he's going to do anything about that? No. There was a little bit, I think there was a little bit about unions and infrastructure. Do I really think that an infrastructure bill is going to pass? Maybe. We'll see. Overall, he said a lot of he said a lot of decent shit, but I don't know how far he will go as far as advocacy. Now, the reason why I say that is because we kind of saw, exactly what happened. Sorry, hold on. We saw exactly what happened with the $15 minimum wage argument, right? $15 minimum wage was a campaign promise. There was a lot of advocacy surrounding it. There was a lot of momentum on the ground surrounding the $15 minimum wage. It literally is a popular policy in the entire country. It's a popular policy in Arizona, where Kyrsten Sinema was looking to be a opponent to it. It's a popular policy in West Virginia, where Manchin was being a vocal opponent to it. And there were many different ways that the Democrats could have at least accelerated the process to the last part that they could take it to until, you know, they had to whip Democrats. And they didn't do that. They didn't overrule the Senate parliamentarian. They could have done that. And I'm worried that that is going to happen over and over again with regards to all of these other policies, including immigration policies, or including PRO-Act, like unionization, card check, unionization related policies that they've advocated for, or you know, American military intervention or lack thereof, or taking a stance against fucking genocide. Any number of different things that the Biden camp has said that they would tackle, including infrastructure. So Sinema and Manchin ruined that? No. There was still stuff. Even before Sinema and Manchin, there were still opportunities for the Democratic Party to continue the conversation, and they didn't do that. Like the easiest one being literally fucking firing the Senate parliamentarian and getting a Senate parliamentarian that is going to go along. Republicans have done this in the past as well. I talked about it a bunch of times. There were several others who voted against it as well. Those were the only two vocal ones. This is an inter-party conflict that you are supposed to deal with. You are supposed to be able to whip your party, and if you legitimately care about the advocacy of the things that you believe in, then you fight for it. You fight for it all the way. And I'm sorry to say this, they did not do that. Maggie HasanAbi, yes, Maggie HasanAbi, me. I'm the reason why. I am one of the gridlocks of $15 minimum wage in the United States of America. So, Maggie HasanAbi, it's so dumb. Hasan, my friends at school said you're a leftist when I told them I watched Don Pecorino on Twitcho. Is this true, bro? What the fuck do I tell him? Yeah, Don Pecorino is not a leftist. He hates politics, so I don't know what you're talking about, all right? Anyway, the other reason why I started early is because the boys over on NoPixel have a laptop, and we are going to rob a bank again. I fucked up yesterday big time. So I wanted to go do that real quick. And then we'll see. There's a lot of fun like stuff planned on the gaming side today, like on the roleplay side that I was planning on doing. Maybe showing Pokimane the ropes of crime, you know, linking her up with some other people, maybe some other, you know, we'll see. If it works out, it works out. You know what I mean? Collaborations of that sort. But that was the reason why I joined early. I'm going to do a heartbeat monitor as well. I got arrested yesterday while robbing a bank. I'm going to talk about Echo Park. I talked about it yesterday. I'm going to talk about California homelessness policies a little bit later today. I will get back to the news at some point. I just want to do this because it's I told the boys that I would, and it would be fucked up if I didn't. You know what I mean? So get excited for that. We're going to dive in real quick. 12-hour RP incoming? No. It's fine. And if you don't want to come back, then you don't want to come back. It's fine. If you're offended by the prospect of playing video games, then, you know, that's all I got to say to the politics guys. Listen, I watched 10K of us disappear from the stream the minute you start NoPixel. Yeah, I mean, look, I can't force people at fucking gunpoint to stay here. I can try to make this as fun as possible for them. And I do think it's very enjoyable. Literally every single person that is stuck around for NoPixel has straight up said it was a great decision. Well, it was a bad decision because now I'm addicted to watching this shit. But it's not offensive. It's just boring. No, I mean, a lot of people enjoy it. So, and this is one of the most like high intensity actions. It's one of the most like higher intensity situations, which is why I wanted to welcome you in on a high note like this one, which could potentially get you more involved in it. Yeah, you got me hooked on No Pixel. I don't even play. Like, a lot of people in the politics side has literally said that they were excited that they got involved with the No Pixel stuff because they found it to be really, really entertaining.